Welcome to Pattern and Craft. I'm Courtney, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful little crochet Christmas ornament. This is a really fun project that goes by really quickly. As you can see, I've made quite a few of these, and I like to include them in my Christmas cards so that everyone who receives a holiday card from me also gets an ornament for their tree. I also decorate my own tree with them. I like this red and white the best as far as color combos go, but of course you can also do other color combos. Here's red and green. Even all white looks good if you don't want to bother with all the color changes. You just get a very different look. It's very textural rather than having the contrast of the color. And you could have really different non-Christmassy looking color combinations as well, like these. The materials you will need to create this ornament are to have two different colored yarns, or if you're doing just the one color version, then one color of yarn. I'm using Minikins by Premier, and I'm using Cotton Fair by Premier. These are both about 50% cotton, 50% acrylic. I think this one's 48-52, this one's 50-50. And they're roughly the same size as well. If you look, the yarns are the exact same weight or close enough. You're going to need a crochet hook. I like to use a 3.5mm crochet hook with this yarn. If you're using a different yarn, you might need to adjust your hook size. We're going to want a fairly tight tension for these so that they hold their shapes, so that you don't have them flopping or being kind of loose and flowy. You want them pretty tight to hold their structure because they're hanging ornaments and you don't want to have to starch them or anything. So adjust accordingly if you use a different yarn. You can use any yarn you want. These are great stash busters and great for using up leftovers because they don't use a whole lot of yarn. You can really get rid of that last little bit of a ball of yarn with these. I do like the cotton acrylic combo, but maybe wool yarn would be good, maybe 100% acrylic, 100% cotton, whatever you have on hand. Also, we're going to need a tapestry needle for weaving in ends. It's just a blunt needle with an eye large enough to accommodate yarn, and optionally a ornament hook, as well as maybe some ribbon. I'm just going to use yarn as my loop to hang my ornament from, but whatever you would like to use to make a loop, and then your hook and some scissors. And here is the pattern chart for this pattern. I do like to show this because it's basically a roadmap for what we're going to be making. So here's the finished object, and you can see how that relates to the pattern chart. The pattern chart is made up of symbols that represent different stitches and chains, and it is very easy to read once you understand it. I know this can look intimidating to some people and they avoid learning how to read a pattern chart, but I really recommend you take the time to learn, and then you will see that you almost don't even need written instructions once you understand what these symbols mean. So I'm going to go over round one. I'll do a little bit of a brief overview of the pattern chart, and then I'll show a demo of the actual stitches for each of the rounds. For round one, we're going to start with a magic ring, or any ring start that you prefer if you don't like magic ring. Then we're going to chain two, and these two chains represent a half double crochet. When we're working from the center, we can't just go straight into making our stitch, so we have to chain up, and two chains represents a half double crochet. We're going to make a regular half double crochet into our ring next, and then we're going to chain two, and then we're going to repeat two half double crochet into the ring, chain two, and we're going to just keep repeating that pattern all the way around until we have 8 pairs of half double crochet separated by chain two, and then we're going to slip stitch into that first stitch of the round to close the round. For this first round, we want to use our darker color, whatever color we're using. I'm using the dark red, the brick color. So we're going to want to make that magic ring. If you're unfamiliar, I can go over it really quickly for you. I like to hold the tail of my yarn with these two fingers and then extend these two to wrap the yarn around in an X shape. So from under to over, behind, and then under over again in an X shape. I slip my hook under the right side of the X over the left side. I pull this left side under as I twist, and then I yarn over, reposition while holding everything with my index finger and pull through one loop. That makes one chain and secures my loop. Now I can work over the tail and this little loop here, and I can change the size of the loop by pulling on the tail to make it smaller. All right, now we're ready to actually make our stitches. If you're using a different type of start, then go ahead and make that and then follow along. I'm going to make one more chain here. So we want basically 2 chains coming out of our ring, and that represents a half double crochet. Now we're going to make a half double crochet the normal way, which is to yarn over, pull up a loop from inside the ring, yarn over, and pull this first loop through the other 3 loops on our hook. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to chain 2, so just yarn over and pull through twice. And now we're going to repeat that, but now we're going to work 2 normal half double crochets. 1 and 2, and then chain 2, 1 and 2. Repeat that again, half double crochet, half double crochet, chain 2. So I want you to keep making this combination of 2 half double crochet and then chain 2 until you have 8 pairs of half double crochet. This is an 8-petaled shape. It's sort of a roughly snowflake inspired, but snowflakes have 6 sides. This has 8, but basically it's the same thing repeated 8 times around, which gives us this beautiful symmetrical design. All right, I'm going to keep going, and you can follow along or skip ahead if you already have that created, but I'm going to do 2 half double crochet, chain 2, 2 half double crochet, chain 2. If your tail starts to twist around your magic ring like this, you're going to want to untwist it, otherwise it'll make it harder to pull tight later. And you might want to pull on that tail to kind of make your ring a little smaller too. It's easier to work into when it's more closed. But you don't want to close it all the way. You want to have room to make all these stitches. Right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of those half double crochets, and I need to have 8, so I need to do 3 more. So here's 1 and 2, chain 2, 1 and 2, oops, chain 2, and my last set, I think, 1 and 2, chain 2. Let's double check. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, that's correct. Or you can count the little chain 2 points between the sets if you want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 coming off my hook. Now I want to close this center here by pulling on the tail, and then I want to slip stitch into this first stitch here, the first stitch of the round, to close the round. And you just pull up a loop and pull through to create a slip stitch. All right, so here is our center of our ornament. We can pull this loop up and cut and pull it all the way out. And we can either work over this tail or we can weave in our ends. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and weave in my ends using that tapestry needle, and then I'll meet you back for round 2. But this is round 1 finished. One more thing I did want to mention on this is when we weave in the ends and we're doing this center portion, I like to just go around these stitches one more time with that yarn. And I like to make sure I'm going in the same direction it's been going. If I go back the opposite direction, I will undo my ring. So I want to make sure I continue going clockwise with my yarn so that I create basically more rings through these stitches rather than undo the ring that is holding these stitches together. So I'm just gonna feed my needle through the bottoms of these stitches and just reinforce that center. It's not super important because there's not going to be any strain on this ornament. It's not like a blanket where it's going to get a lot of use, so I don't have to really go to all that much trouble, but I'm going to just reinforce a little bit and tighten up that center by weaving in my end. And there we go. Okay, for round 2, we're going to switch to our other color, so that will be white. In this chart, the pink represents red and the black represents white or cream. We're going to create this stitch here, which is a double crochet 4 together. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to be working into that chain 2 space from the previous round, from round 1, to create this stitch all into that one spot. And then we'll do chain 3 in between. So we'll do double crochet 4 together, chain 3, crochet 4 together, chain 3. We're going to do 8 of those, and then we're going to slip stitch back to the first stitch of the round to finish. Okay, now grab your white or cream yarn, or whatever color you're using for your second color. I definitely recommend that you use a darker color for the first round and this round here, and a lighter color for the second round and these other rounds here, just because it kind of looks better that way. And this is the little star design that we really want to feature. So it's nicer when that's a lighter color and the color behind is darker. So firstly, make sure we have the right side of the work showing. We want to work into the first round, that little flower, and we want to work into these chain 2 spaces, which look like the petals, but that's actually a opening there where we can work into. And we want to work into those openings, and we want to have the right side of the work facing up. And we're going to make a standing double crochet stitch, or part of a standing double crochet stitch to start. So you can either make a slip knot and put it on your hook, or you can just wrap the yarn. I like to wrap the yarn. That's my preference because I don't like knots in my work. So I just bring the yarn from behind and forward and then over top of my working yarn and kind of hold it to keep it taut with my other fingers. And then I'm going to yarn over because I'm making a double crochet, so we need to yarn over. Then I'm going to work into any one of these little chain space little points here that I want to. It really doesn't matter which one. And I'm going to pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, but not continue to finish that double crochet stitch. Just stop with the first step. Double crochet stitches are made in 2 steps. I'm going to stop after the first. And now I'm going to do that 3 more times because I need 4 partial double crochet stitches. So I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to put my hook in the exact same spot, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And then do the same thing again, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through just 2. I have 3 partial stitches on my hook now. We need 1 more, we need 4. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. until you have 4 partial double crochet stitches all worked into that chain space there. And then yarn over and pull through all the loops on your hook to join them as one stitch at the top. Now I hope that showed up okay on video. I'll do it again a few times if you need. All right, now we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, because we want 3 chains in between these petals, and we're going to do that same thing one more time into the next little chain space or tip of the petal, just this little spot here where there's a chain 2 space to work into right there. All right, so we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. That's a partial double crochet. Normally you would yarn over and pull through 2 again to finish the stitch, but we don't want to do that. We want to make 4 partial stitches and then finish the stitch. So 1 more partial stitch, pulling through just 2. If your yarn splits, just make sure you go grab the rest of that. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Oopsie, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 partial double crochet stitches on the hook. Yarn over, and now we pull through all the loops on the hook to combine that into just 1 stitch at the top. And then we chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to keep working these little petals all into the previous round at all these little corners, and there will be 8 total, each separated by a chain 3. I'll meet you back as we're finishing up the round. Okay, I'm finishing up that last petal. I have 4 stitches. I'm pulling through all 4 stitches, chaining 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of this first stitch, and I'm going to go into these first 2 chains and slip stitch into that spot. So just pull up a loop and then pull that loop through the loop on your hook for a slip stitch to complete the round. And you can continue working with this yarn. We're not going to have to finish off yet. We have 1 more round to make from here in the white. All right, here's our pattern chart again. We just finished up by slip stitching into the top of this stitch. Now we are going to make a chain 7 and slip stitch into the top of the next petal or the next double crochet 4 together at the top. Chain 7, slip stitch, chain 7, slip stitch, chain 7, slip stitch, all the way around till we have 8 of these loop shapes created with the chain 7s, and then we'll slip stitch back into that same spot and finish off and weave in our ends. All right, so we've slip stitched into the top of this petal. We're going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we're going to slip stitch into the next petal over into the both loops of the top of that stitch, and then repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chains. And you want to make these kind of tight chains. You don't want loose chains. And then these 2 loops are the top of this next petal's stitch. So just insert your hook, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through the loop on your hook for a slip stitch, which anchors down this little chain 7 into a loop shape, and continue all the way around. So we're going to make chain 7, slip stitch, chain 7, slip stitch, and then I will meet you back over here to show you how to finish the round. Okay, I've finished making my loops all the way around. I have my last chain 7 here. I need to anchor it down. So I'm going to just slip stitch back into that same spot, the top of that stitch there, the double crochet 4 together, and make a slip stitch. Now I can just pull this yarn loop up, cut my yarn, and pull the loop through. And then I can go ahead and weave in my ends at this point because we're going to be working in the red next. And the next time we use the lighter colored yarn is not going to connect to where we're at now. So we can go ahead and finish off. Okay, I want to show you what we're doing next, sort of on the sample first before I show you the pattern chart. And the round that we just made was these little loops of chain here. And next we're going to make this red round that's worked behind that. So we're going to kind of want to fold these loops down so that we can work into this chain space here and behind these loops. So we want to fold them forward so we can access this place, this chain 3 chain space, and work into those. So we kind of want to fold down round 3 so we can do, and I'm actually calling this round 3A in the pattern, and we're going to work round 3B now in the red. And we're going to work behind these into the chain 3 chain space. So here on the pattern chart, you can see we're going to start over here. We're going to do 2 double crochets into that chain 3 chain space. We're going to chain 2. And then we're going to do 2 more double crochets into the same chain 3 chain space of round 2. Then we're going to do a double crochet 2 together, and we're going to start it in the same chain space we've been working into, and we're going to end it in the next chain space over. And then we'll join those 2 stitches, and then we're going to do 2 double crochets into the new chain space that we started working into, chain 2, 2 double crochet in the same chain space, and then again we're going to have that double crochet 2 together with 1 leg in the current chain space and 1 leg worked into the next chain space, and then repeat. And we're going to repeat that all the way around until we get back to here. We're going to finish off with a double crochet 2 together and then slip stitch to finish the round and weave in our ends, and we'll be all done with the red yarn at that point. Okay, now pick up your work again and make sure we're on the correct side. This is the right side. And get your red yarn. And we're going to do a standing double crochet. So either create a slip knot or simply wrap the yarn around like I do. And then we're going to yarn over because we're making a double crochet. And we can work into any of these chain 3 chain spaces between the petals of round 2, but we want to work behind round 3A. So we're going to fold our work forward so we can work into this chain space here. We're going to finish that double crochet, pull up a loop, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, make 1 more double crochet here. And then we're going to do the double crochet 2 together worked into the current chain space for the first half. So work that similar to how we did the double crochet 4 together, but we're doing just 1 leg in the current chain space, then move over to the next chain space and make another partial double crochet, then yarn over and join all the loops on the hook. Now make 2 more double crochet into the new chain space that we started working into, 1 and 2, chain 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to make 2 more double crochet, fold these loops out of the way if they're confusing you or getting in the way, 2 double crochet into the same chain space, 1, shift the stitches over if they start getting too bunched up, and 2. And then we're going to do that same double crochet 2 together with half of it worked into the current chain space and half worked into the next chain space over. And then join those 2 stitches together. And kind of mush that over so that you have room to work the rest of your stitches into the rest of that chain space. I'll show that one more time. So 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2, 1, 2, shift your stitches if you need to, 2 more double crochet, 1 and 2, and then work our double crochet 2 together with 1 leg worked here and 1 leg worked into the next chain space and join the stitch. All right, I'm going to keep working until I get to all the way at the end of the round. So keep working on yours as well, and I'll meet you back here in a moment. Okay, as you see, I've worked all the way around. This is kind of creating an octagon shape. And the last thing I have to do is that double crochet 2 together. So I'm going to create that first leg and then the second leg in the next chain space. And then join that stitch. And actually I just realized I did mine a little different from my pattern chart. So the pattern chart has us do 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. I think I started here by accident on this one. I started with these 2 double crochet and then went straight into the 2 double crochet 2 together. So I have to finish these last 2 double crochet and my chain 2, and I'm going to slip stitch into this stitch. If you followed the pattern chart correctly, you would have finished right after this double crochet 2 together, but it doesn't really matter where you start or end on these rounds. It just matters if you end up with the correct pattern altogether. So I need to finish my last 2 double crochet, my chain 2, and then I'm going to slip stitch into here. I just realized that I explained it a little different than I actually did it in the video. So to finish up mine, I need to do a double crochet 2 together into this space and the next. And then I need to finish that stitch, so it's all 1 at the top. And I need to make 2 double crochet into the next chain space, 1 and 2. I'm running short on yarn here because I already cut it thinking I was finished. So I might have to make my chains the other way. So I barely have enough to finish that stitch, so I'm going to do something a little wonky. It's a little bit bad to do this in a video, but I'm going to chain 2 the other direction. I'm going to pull up my loop here and chain 2 in the other direction. 1 and 2, and then slip stitch from the back side. It doesn't really matter, I just ran out of yarn, and then we're going to pull that out. And we still ended up with the correct number of stitches and a chain 2 space to work into right here. But do as I say, not as I do. And now we can go ahead and weave in these ends and finish off everything here, and then we can unfold that round 3A. The round we just completed is 3B in the red. And then we just have to do round 4, which is my favorite round because it finishes everything off really beautifully with these fans and these little stitches that make it look very decorative. So here's what we should have, and it should look kind of like an octagon with a flower with loops sitting on top. Okay, here is the final round, round 4. It's the 5th round we're creating, but since this is 3A and 3B, this is round 4. 1, 2, 3A, 3B, round 4. So we're going to start from here. We're going to make a standing double crochet into the chain 2 space of round 3B, then 2 normal double crochets into that same chain space. Then we're going to make another double crochet that's going to go into that chain 2 chain space of round 3B, the red round, and this little loop round 3A right in the middle of this chain space. We're going to also work it around that, and that will anchor the point of this little star shape that we have here. Then we're going to work just into round 3B again, just into the red, not into this little chain anymore, with 3 more double crochet into the chain 2 chain space here. Then we're just going to do a single crochet into the double crochet 2 together from round 3B to anchor that fan down. And then we're going to do another fan. It's going to be 3 double crochet into the chain 2 chain space of the round behind the red round, round 3B. Then 1 double crochet into both round 3B and 3A. Then 3 double crochet into the chain 2 chain space of round 3B. And then single crochet into this stitch here, into the double crochet 2 together. And so on, repeating all the way around 8 times. And then we're going to do our last single crochet, and then we're going to slip stitch and finish off and be done. All right, so we're going to grab our lighter colored yarn, our white or cream or whatever color you're using, and we're going to do that standing double crochet, either by starting with a slip knot on the hook or simply wrapping our yarn and yarning over. And then we're going to work into any one of these points on our octagon here, the chain 2 chain space of round 3B. We're going to work that standing double crochet into that corner chain space. And then we're going to work 2 normal double crochet into the same spot. 1 and 2. And now we want to fold this loop up, the 3A loop of chain 7, and we're going to work our double crochet through that. So just loop it over our hook and go through the chain space as well, and work that double crochet into both. So kind of imagine they're almost the same thing, like as if there wasn't a chain space and a chain loop. Just layer them right on top of each other and work into it as if they were all one. Now what's a little tricky is we need to work 3 more double crochet, but just into the chain 2 chain space behind this. So we want to kind of shove our hook behind that loop and into the chain 2 chain space to work our next double crochet, so that we don't accidentally pick it up by just going through here, because that would work over the loop. We don't want to work over that loop. For the next 3 stitches, we want to work behind it into only the round 3B, the red round. So you can see we worked 3 double crochet behind, 1 double crochet into both, 3 double crochet behind, and now we want to work a single crochet into the top of this middle stitch here, the double crochet 2 together from round 3B, just a little single crochet there to kind of tack everything down. So next we can work 3 double crochet into this next chain 2 chain space of round 3B. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do that 4th double crochet into both. So we have to fold up our little loop, go through the loop with our hook and through the chain 2 chain space behind it, work our double crochet around both, kind of center the stitches, and you can see just that one picked up this loop. And now we have to work between the loop and the red round behind. Make sure we're only working into the chain 2 chain space behind with 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. worked into the chain 2 chain space only and not working over this loop. Just that center stitch goes through the loop. And then a single crochet into the top of this double crochet 2 together, which is right there. All right, so that starts creating our fans all the way around, which is the final round of this ornament. So let's go ahead and finish the other 6 fans, and then I'll meet you back at the end. Okay, I'm working my last fan. I've got my first 3 double crochets. I'm grabbing that loop while I make my 4th double crochet. I'm also going to now make the last 3 of the 7. 1, 2, oops, and 3 into just the round in the back. And then I'm going to single crochet to tack this down like that. And I, at this point, could slip stitch into the first stitch of the round and then finish off, but I find that that leaves sort of a little bump. And because it's the outside edge of my ornament, I want it to look pretty perfect and not have a bump. So I'm going to pull the yarn up and out and cut, and then pull this loop out the top of the single crochet stitch. And I'm going to do a needle finish for this. So that means you put the yarn on your needle, and you can see how this yarn is coming out of the top of this single crochet. Now we're going to sort of go around and through the next stitch, but not this first stitch. We actually want to simulate the stitch going over top of here. So we want to go into the next stitch, the second stitch, both of those loops from front to back horizontally. And then we're going to pull our yarn, not all the way tight, but just until it's a little bit snug. And then we're going to put our needle down through the 2 loops of that single crochet stitch, down through the middle of the stitch. And that, when we pull to just the right tension, makes it look like a continuous stitch. You can't tell that I finished off there. It's an invisible join. So from here I can weave in my ends and my ornament is finished. Okay, I've got my ends all woven in. The last thing to do is kind of to just flatten out. I call this hand blocking, where you just kind of even out the shape. And there we have our beautiful ornament. You can also wet block or steam block this if you desire to have it a little bit more flat and perfect, but it's pretty good right as is off the hook and hand blocked. The other thing I like to do is take a little bit of yarn or ribbon or metallic thread. Just going to use a little bit of yarn this time. Fold our yarn in half and put our hook through the middle of the middle stitch of any fan. Pull that through and then pull the yarn through the loop. And that creates a little hanging loop, and we can just tie the top. And then trim the yarn to be even. And that creates a little simple hanging loop. You could do it that way with some yarn and then add your ornament hook to that for hanging on the tree. Or you could also create a loop with crochet chains if you want to be a little bit more fancy. And the last thing to do is hang the ornament on our Christmas tree like so. And I love these little crochet ornaments. They come together so quickly. And like I said, you can include them in your Christmas cards. So you could mail them out to all your loved ones. I have other designs for other crochet ornaments. So feel free to check my YouTube channel and my Etsy and Ravelry shops for more pattern designs for these little crochet ornaments. But I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this one today. This is the Mandala Crochet Ornament. And if you have any questions, of course, leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you create one and post it to Instagram, I'd love if you tagged me at Pattern and Crafts so I can see it. I love seeing your work. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you try out this beautiful ornament, and I'll see you next time. Have a great holiday, have a great winter, and happy crafting.